All right. Okay. So we spent the better part of this morning, all right, going through how we identify our profession or how we determine our professional identity. Okay. We went through a few exercises. Okay. We went through a meaningful experience exercise to determine your motivation. We went through how you identify all your skill sets, what you like to use, what you're good at, to help you identify, which areas you could go for more training, which areas you feel that you are motivated to use in terms of skills and experience, right? We went through the exercise of getting you to list out or describe what problems you can solve and how you solve it, right? And then the last part we rounded off by getting you putting all those information together to write out a purpose statement. Okay, so those are the four things. Now I just want to sort of emphasize a couple of points. Number one, the purpose statement, okay, is slightly different from an elevator pitch. I just want you all to know that. All right, although it sounds the same, all right, the essence is the same, but the focus of the purpose statement is to help you, right? It's not to sell yourself, it's to help you. All right. So whenever you're confused, whenever you got a lot of things going on, you revisit your purpose statement and say, that is what I want to do. Okay. So that is the whole idea. However, elements of that statement, you can use it in your elevator pitch. All right. So the elevator pitch is outward. It's more telling other people what you are good at, what you are all about. Okay, so that there are two differences. Now, how simple you make it, right? I would encourage you when you are pitching using it as an elevator pitch to outside people, keep it very simple so that people can understand better, all right? Because if people are confused, they're not gonna be interested in what you say. So keep it as simple as possible. Don't try and squeeze everything into one go. All right. If they are interested, they get the buy-in from what you say, they'll ask more questions, then you can elaborate more. In the purpose statement, you say what you need to say in order to motivate yourself, in order to guide yourself. Okay. Now, there was a couple of questions about, how specific should I be? Okay. Now, if you're talking about customer segment, your target group in terms of your purpose statement, right? Just think about if you have a very broad target group versus a very more defined target group of people, which one is better for you, right? My opinion, this is my opinion, is that if you have a narrower target group, it's easier for you to focus. But that is not to say that once you identify a narrow target, you ignore everybody else. No. What it only means is that when you identify your own narrow target, you are more focused, that becomes your primary group. However, if other people are wanting to your help, you can still go to them. Okay, so that is the whole purpose of having a more narrow target group. Okay, so that's my point. All right. Any other questions about this morning's activities? Any questions? Okay. So I hope you got the gist of it, because now you have an idea of what your professional identity is. Okay. Now you got to go forward and sort of take a look at how you then redesign where you want to go or what you're doing now, and then how you communicate this to other parties. That's what we're going to cover this afternoon. Okay, so that's the gist of the activity itself. Okay, so if there's no questions, then let me then go through the next portion, which is the redesign process. Okay, okay, here I am going to revisit this notion of a definition, right? Whether to revise in appearance, function, or content. The question now we have to ask ourselves is this: when you are looking at the redesign process, are you going to make it a very big and drastic change, or are you going to do incremental change itself? Okay, in other words, step by step. Okay, so this is something you need to ask yourself. Only you can determine that, not me. Okay, however, I'm going to go through with you a process which will help you look at these things. Okay, Now you see here on the pie chart here, essentially I'm looking at how you determine, okay, this notion of what are your possible selves. Now, this notion of possible selves, that we all have different possible selves within us. It's actually a long study that's done by psychiatrists and psychologists and all that. Okay, you key in possible selves, you see a lot of academic research done on this. Okay, so it is a very real aspect, something very real to consider. Here, I'm putting it together in terms of how you do it for your own career, your own jobs. Okay, so that is the main thing I'm looking at. Okay, so here I've broken it down into three particular segments. All right, so for this immediate segment, the one that we're talking about in terms of uh, um, redesigning, what is the process to redesign what we want to do, our career, whether it's our next career or whether it's the current job that we're doing. Okay, I'm going to talk about this portion of conducting experiments. Conducting experiments, right? Some of you may have come across some research that tells you, okay, that actually by right now, when we go through life, we are actually constantly conducting experiments to try and find out what's best for ourselves. Okay, so this is a very similar process that I want to ask you to go through as well. All right. So what do we mean by conducting experiments? Okay. So really at the end of the day, is really looking at what are your possibilities. If you want to keep it simple, it's really looking at what's possible for you. What's possible for you. Okay. Now, for those of you who are fed up with what you're currently doing, whether you're employed or not employed, you're fed up with everything that you have. The first natural reaction that many of us go through, sometimes it may be a knee-jerk reaction. The first reaction is you will tell yourself, oh, I want to quit. I want to quit my job, or I want to quit the industry, or I want to change to a totally different thing. And then many of you will be thinking, yeah, I'm so fed up. I think I just want to like switch careers. Okay? So that is a very natural reaction because of your own negative experiences, what you're going through. Okay? No harm in thinking that way. What I would like to suggest is before you think about these things, before you start quitting, before you start thinking about jumping to a totally different area, can you look at something else? What's the alternative between these two? Can you think about it? What is the alternative apart from quitting and going into a different career switch? What is an alternative? Can you think of anything? What's an alternative to this? If you can think of an alternative, right, type into the chat box. What do you think it is? Okay, lateral movement, some would say. Anything else? Is it lateral movement? Right? Part-time try first, Darren says. Okay. Yeah. So maybe you're trying different things and large scope. Yeah. Same industry but different organization could be as well. So that's also part and parcel of quitting and changing or whatever. Yeah. What I'm suggesting is to have an additional layer to consider. All right. Is to see to what extent can you remodel your current situation. Now, what do I mean by remodel? Remodel, it involves a few things. Okay. So first thing here is this: what you are experiencing now, in terms of your dissatisfaction, in terms of your negative feelings towards what you are doing, is it because of the way you are looking at the whole situation? In other words, your perspective. Is it because of that? You ask yourself that. I can't answer that for you. You have to ask yourself. Is it because, wow, I'm feeling this way because of the things I'm going through right now and all that? Okay. Is there a possibility? Think about it. Is there a possibility for you to change that perspective? Okay. So what do I mean by that? So really it's in terms of the context you are in as well as the content. So what do I mean by context and content? So context here, all right, is, for example, okay, if those of you who are currently employed or those of you who are looking for the same job, even though you can say, oh, my job is terrible, my career is terrible. How about looking at another way? They say there are some good points and there are some bad points about my job. Let's list all these down and compare. See what are good. Okay, so that's a perspective. It gives you a more balance. Because sometimes a lot of time when we react to something negative is because we remember the last negative thing that happened to us. Okay, but then it clouds our perspective. We forget the one of the all the good things about the job or the career. Okay, so maybe you can think, is there no? Let's sit down and compare. There are some good points and bad points. Okay, so that's the context. Then we talk about content. Content. So let's say, for example, now you're having difficulty finding a job. Okay, instead of saying, I'm so useless, I can't find a job. How about saying, the right job is out there, I just need to know where to look. Okay, so once you have this, then really your perspective change, you become more positive. So the thing that you need to do is really maybe to get guidance, for example. Okay, so is your perspective, are you able to change your perspective? Okay, so what I want you to do now, okay, maybe 5 minutes, spend 5 minutes, all right, going through your current situation and see to what extent can you change your perspective. Just take 5 minutes, okay, and this is for your own sake, for your own little exercise. Okay, I want you to go through this and see if you can change your own perspective. Okay, I'll come back and we'll continue this after the 5 minutes. You give it a try. Give it a try. Okay, I see you guys in 5 minutes. okay. Hopefully you had time to sort of take a look whether there are certain things you can change in terms of your perspective. Okay. Now, I had a couple of questions from direct messages coming to me. Um, can I suggest that I talk about those questions towards the end? Because I think my concern is that if I answer those questions, those are very important questions, mind you. But if I answer those questions, it's going to sort of distract from the train of thought that I want to pursue today. Okay, so for those of you who've asked me that question, if you can hold the ball, I'll come back to your question towards the end. Hopefully that's okay for you. Okay, now if I forget, by all means forgive me. All right, just remind me again and copy and paste your question again. I'll address that towards the end. Okay. All right, thank you for bearing with me on that, because I think your questions are actually very important. It's just that when I go into detail about that, then everything else lose train of thought. And then actually also some of the things that I'm going to mention later on also would help you in terms of the answers that you are seeking. Okay, so that may help a lot. All right. Okay, so changing perspectives. Okay, changing perspective is one key factor. Now, the other thing that you should look at, all right, apart from perspective, is really looking at what are the problems you're going through right now. Okay, so again, this is like putting it down, listing it down, thinking about all the problems that you have. Now, here is not so much just listing the problems down, it is about asking yourself, what type of problems are they? Okay, essentially, there are two types of problems if you think about it. Okay, the first one is what we call gravity problems. Now, what do we mean by gravity problems? You think about it, are we going to complain that gravity exists? Right? Can we do anything about gravity? We can't, right? So there are certain things in life, there are certain problems that we are facing. We get no power over them. There's nothing we can do about it. Okay? So that's gravity issue. Okay? Can you think of any examples of a gravity issue, a gravity problem? Any examples of a gravity problem? Some of you may say COVID. COVID, no, you cannot wish COVID away, right? COVID is there, right? Age, yeah, is there. You can't wish you were younger, although many of us do. All right. So, in fact, something is quite funny. Sometimes I ask younger people, "What do you wish? Why your age?" They say, "I wish I was older." Then older people will say, "I wish I was younger." Okay. So you cannot wish that. All right. Inflation, you can't wish that away. Okay, right? The fact that your company is not making money and is going to close down, or is going to retrench people, or you have been retrenched, that is a gravity problem. You can't change that. Okay, so those are gravity problems. So list those down. And why do you want to list those down? Because many a time you think about it, many a time the problems that we so preoccupied over and get so much anguish over, a lot of time is actually gravity problems. You're wasting a lot of effort and emotional energy in trying to deal with those gravity problems. Okay? So put it down. Gravity problems. Next one is what we call anchor problems. What do you think it is? Anchor problem. What does an anchor do? An anchor is something that you put in the water and it prevents the boat from drifting away, from moving away. Right? So anchor problems are, and how do you solve an anchor problem? You basically raise the anchor. Correct or not? Huh? So anchor problems essentially are problems that are holding you back, right? But if you think deeper about it, there are ways around it. Okay, there are ways around it. Okay, so what are your anchor problems? What are your gravity problems? An example of an anchor problem could be, right, you are not getting promoted. Then you think about it. Why are you not getting promoted? Is it because I don't have the competencies? Is it because I'm not doing, the jobs that I want to get promoted to? require certain certifications, that's why I'm not getting promoted? Or is it because my performance on the job is not so good? Those are anchor problems, because if you think deeper, there is probably a way around it. Like, for example, going for training, going for more exposure, trying out new projects to get you more experience in those areas. Okay? So those are anchor problems. All right? So again, what I like you to do, maybe spend 5 minutes again listing down what are your gravity problems, what are your anchor problems. Is that okay? Again, this is about maybe classifying things more properly so that you don't waste energies in areas that you cannot control. Okay? So 5 minutes and then we come back to this. Okay?
5 minutes later.
Okay. Hope you had a chance to list down what your anchor problems are, what your gravity problems are. Okay. Any questions or anything you're not sure about at this stage? Any questions, right? We done just after lunch, we've done an exercise about relooking at your perspective. And now we're doing an exercise about how you list down what your problems are and how you categorize your problems. Yes, Gary. Or is it Darren? Darren, yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Yes. Yes, that's right. Okay. Right. Okay.
This and how can we change that?
Okay. So you can't change the nature of the job, right? So so if you are an outgoing person, but the job that you just mentioned, the technical problem, the coding jobs, doesn't suit your personality, okay? Then the question you ask yourself is that to what extent are you willing to squeeze yourself into that profile? You know, if you are not willing to squeeze yourself, you tell yourself that you cannot because that's not my personality, then maybe you classify that as a gravity problem because there is just no match. However, if you feel that no, it is not so bad, I can still do it, right? Then then you say, okay, maybe it is not a gravity problem, it's an anchor problem because there are only some adjustments I need to make. Yeah. So that is the thinking that you want to go through. Is that all right, Darren?
Okay.
Yeah. Then I think the other things about uh, um, age sensitive jobs, right? Jobs that require younger people. The job, your current job is obsolete because of industrial change, technological change. Those are, you're right, those are gravity problems. You can't change anything about that. Okay. So focus on what you can manage. In other words, focus on what. So if let's say, for example, your job is obsolete, okay, so that's a gravity problem. Then your anchor problem now could be what? What do you need to do? What training you need to do in order to get into the area that you want to go for? So that is your anchor problem. What's holding you back from going to new areas, right? So that would be the area that you should focus on. What do I need to do to solve that situation where I can't move effectively to a different area? So focus on that part. So the whole purpose of listing anchor and gravity problem now is to know where you should focus your energies on. Is that okay, Darren? Or is there, yeah? Okay. What you want to, okay, I tell you what, maybe let me sort of go through this some more, okay? And you see if that doubt still comes into mind after I explain the second portion of this. Is that okay? Then if it's still doubt, then maybe we come back and revisit again. Is that okay? All right. Okay. So there was another question here Thanks, Darren. I think those are very good questions. Okay, for mature workers, many prospective employers cite the following issues as obstacles to these workers finding a role. Short prospective runway, overqualified for more junior role than held previously. Are these anchor or gravity problems? It could be a little bit of both. Okay, Gary. All right. The thing here is, can you change their perspective or not? Can you change their perspective? If they have that perspective, if that particular company has that perspective, then obviously you can't change it, right? However, if you feel that you can present yourself in a different way that makes them change their minds, for example, showing to them about your accomplishments, the fact that you have in a particular situation, a particular set of skills that can help them overcome this. So the only thing that's stopping them from hiring you is how you convince them. Then that becomes an anchor problem, doesn't become a gravity problem. Okay. Now I know, Gary, I think you're one of those that actually sent me a question earlier this week about what to address for today's session. And I am actually going to address these points that you mentioned towards the end. Okay, because I think it encompasses quite a lot of stuff. So if you don't mind, I want to address that towards the end as well, so that I think we make it more complete. Is that okay? All right, but that's a very good question. Huh? So I've got two questions to address at the end of today specifically. Okay, good. Any other questions relating to gravity and anchor problems? Anything else? Okay, so now what we have gone through now here is basically a couple of elements here. All right. Before you start thinking about redesigning lah, quitting lah, changing careers, everything, you have to think about a couple of things. Am I thinking about my problems in the right way? Your perspective. Secondly, am I focusing my energies and my emotions into the right problems? Problems I can manage and control, or problems which I cannot manage, and no matter how hard I bang my head against the wall, it's going to be there. Okay, so now you have that set of information. Okay, so now then let's take a look at this whole process which I call remodeling. Remodeling. Okay, so how do we remodel? Now let me ask you this. I think many of you would have gone through this process. When you want to renovate your house, your home, you go through a few steps, right? So essentially this is like remodeling not only your home, but it's your own career. But essentially the steps are the same. Okay, so when you are remodeling, let's take a look at your house, your renovation now, right? When you are renovating, remodeling your house, what is the first thing you consider? Can you type into the chat box? What is the first thing you consider when you are looking at renovating or remodeling your house? Okay, some people say budget, could be budget, right? How much money you have to spend. Yeah. But even before you arrive at the budget, there's something else you want to consider. What is that something else? You know your needs, okay? You know your needs in what context? You know your needs in what context? What are you trying to achieve? Right? All right. So so essentially you got to look at currently what's happening, right? What you have currently. Correct or not? Right? Because you feel that, oh, my current setup, my current layout in my house is not satisfactory. That's why I want to renovate. That's why I want to remodel. So you sort of scope out what is currently your map, your layout right now, right, in your house. You got how many rooms, these rooms are here and all that. That you're scoping that out. Okay? So same thing about your job, your career. Right? What is currently happening with you right now? You're scoping things out. You're looking at your job, where you like, where you dislike, blah, blah, blah. You're scoping it out. Okay? So after this, after you have looked at, what's happening around you, what you have, some of you already mentioned this, okay? You determine what you want, right? So using the house analogy again, the home analogy, you want to renovate. Why do you want to renovate? What do you want to have? You want to have more space in the living area, or you want to have a more cabinet space, or you want to have a more open plan kitchen, whatever. What do you want? Okay. After this, now what happens? Can you tell me? So you have decided, you have looked at your current situation and then you have determined what you want. What is the next stage? What is the next stage? What do you guys think? What is the next stage after this? How to get it? Okay, how to get it? Yeah. So essentially, it is about what are the things, it's related to how to get it. What are the things you can change? Right? So some of you may say, "Oh, I need to knock down this wall. Oh, I need to remove this old cabinets and install new cabinets. Oh, I need to have a new door installed here. What can I change? I can only change this because I cannot knock this wall down because it's a support wall or something like that." Right? So you have to examine what you can change. Right? Same thing with your job. You think about this. If you're unhappy in your job or in your career, right, the current career that you're having, what can you change? Right? If let's say you are somebody who's been working in the art stream, or you study in the art stream, you are all your life, let's say you're a graphic designer, like that the example I use in the T, all right? You're unhappy being a graphic designer, then you think, oh, can I be a doctor? What do you guys think? Chances are, I'm not going to say you cannot, but in order to do that, you probably need to spend a lot of time and effort and money and maybe go through a lot of multiple steps in order to become a doctor. So it's a question of whether you really want to do that or not. Okay, so examine what can you change. What can you change? Last part. Last part. Somebody already mentioned this. After going through all this, what can you change and all that? What's the last one? Some people think it's the most important, but I would like to think that you want to consider the other activities first. What is the last one that is not you think that is critical for you if you want to make changes? What do you think? Nobody knows. Somebody already mentioned this, but I want to emphasize this again. What is the thing that, the next one that you will consider? Okay, we just said execution, maybe, but what is the thing before execution? Before you do execution? Karen says milestones. Okay, milestones. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It is about what you are going to sacrifice. Okay. Sacrifice here could be in terms of the money that you spend, the budget. Okay. It could be in terms of maybe the risk of getting a lower salary, for example. All right. It could be in terms of going to some areas that you don't know, like in a new job or new career, for example. Okay, or doing something you totally are unfamiliar with. That is something that is a risk, right? Are you willing to embark on that risk? So same thing again. Okay, so when you are doing a remodeling, look at all these factors. What is currently your situation in your job or your career? I mean, even if you're unemployed and you're thinking, should I make a change? You think about whether in your past job, okay, how happy or unhappy you were in your past career. Okay, what do you want to change? What are the things about your past career that you wanted to change? Okay, what can you change? Are there some things manageable? Some things maybe it takes a very big drastic change. And then what are you willing to sacrifice? Okay, if for example feel that you want to change into a new career, totally new direction, what are the sacrifices you need to make? Now, notice here I didn't say salary at the first go, because sometimes, and I have clients who actually jump into a different career trajectory and didn't sacrifice salary, okay, because they did it in the right way. Okay, right way means I'll show you later on. Okay, so what are you willing to sacrifice? Okay, so this is the thinking behind the remodeling process. Thinking behind the remodeling process. Okay, so once you take a look at this, then you start thinking to yourself, okay, I've answered all those things. Then how do I implement the remodeling process? Okay, some of you mentioned the implementation part. Okay, so I put down here two particular areas: structural change, structural remodeling, and a redesign. So what do I mean? So I use the same analogy again, where you are doing renovation. Structural means what? Structural could be those of you who are living in a landed property, A and A. knock down the building and rebuild. That's structural, right? For those living in apartment, the structural change could be knocking down an entire wall. That is a big structural change, right now. Okay, so in terms of a job, what can be a big structural change? What do you guys think? Somebody already mentioned this. Okay, maybe you could move into a totally different role within the same company, for example. That's a structural change for you, right? All right. Or you could do the same role but maybe in a different branch of the company. For those who are working in bigger companies, you have different subsidiaries. You could do that. Okay? So that is a big change, structural change. So you think to yourself, is that possible for you? Is that possible for you? Okay, in terms of your career and your job. Now, structural could also come into another situation which I'm going to talk about when I'm talking about career switching. Okay, structural. Now, redesign. What do I mean by redesign? Redesign could be as simple as in your current role, current career, what can you tweak so that you are doing more of the things that you prefer, more of the things that you enjoy. Can you talk to your boss and say, hey, boss, I think, is it possible for me to do more of this or add this to my role because, and all that sort of thing. Okay, so it's a slight redesign. Okay, so for example, I had a client who was working in sales, in a sales job, but that client was actually trained in marketing. So he wanted to do marketing in that job, in that company. It's a really good company. He didn't want to quit the company, but he didn't like to do sales. Okay, so and he was doing research and he was digging deep and he was looking at market trends. He was looking at other similar companies, and other companies in the same industry was starting to create a new role that was in between sales and marketing. Okay, called key account management. Then the guy, my client, was saying, oh, yeah, that's possible, right? I can tweak my job. I can say that, hey, can I, maybe get more involved into the key account side? Although I'm still doing sales, I do key account management, right? Because it's involved sales, but at the same time, I'm also involved in doing some marketing to that key account. Can I do that? He went to speak to his boss. He approached his boss saying that all the progressive companies in the industry are doing this, blah blah blah. He provided justification. He did a lot of work. He showed the boss the effectiveness, the potential for this, and lo and behold, he became the company's first key account manager. And then he moved on from there. Okay, right now he's doing marketing. He's doing a director of marketing job in a regional capacity in that same company. That's a few years after he did this transition. So redesign could also be a possibility for you. Okay, so my message here is this: when you are unhappy about your current situation, avoid the knee-jerk reaction and say, I need a total change. Okay, although it's a very natural reaction, I urge you to take a step back, try and remove the emotions, try and analyze the situation, whether it's your perspective, whether you're focusing on the right problems. Once you have that, then you take a look at your situation and say, to what extent can I tweak and change my current situation, whether it's a very big structural change or whether it's a total redesign of currently what I'm doing. Consider that first. Okay, questions about this before I move on to the career switching part? Any questions about this process? Okay, so then let me then touch on this next one, which is a big topic in itself, this career switching. Okay, actually, I actually have full workshops on career switching. Okay, those of you who've been to my past workshops, you have gone through this. All right. So I don't have time to actually run through with you all the gamuts of doing a full career switch. I'm just going to touch on a few key points here. Okay. Essentially, if you look at it, making a career switch is like reinventing yourself, right? And many people say that making a career switch is actually one of the most difficult career decisions you make. Okay, you cannot do it a snap of a finger, no, you can't. There's a lot of legwork involved. Okay, so those of you who are thinking, oh, I just want to make career switch, I just going to apply to a different industry lah, simple. You can do that, but your chances of success will be very low. Okay, you have to do the legwork. You have to put in a lot of effort. Okay, next thing I want to highlight here is this. When you are looking at making a career progress, if you look at this here, there are 4 boxes here. 1, same career, same industry. 2, same career, different industry. 3, different career, same industry. And 4, different career, different industry. Okay, box 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you all tell me in the chat box which is the most riskiest and most difficult one to go to? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay, many people say 4. Any doubters from 4? Or anybody? Okay, some people say 3. Majority says 4. Okay, so you're right. It is 4. Okay, the bigger change you have, the more changes you have, the the greater the risk, the greater the difficulty. Okay. Now I'm not saying that you will not be successful. What I'm saying here is that it is going to be very, very difficult. You're going to have to do a lot of work. Okay. So my point to any of my clients or anybody who's coming here and say, I want to change careers. My strong recommendation to you and to them essentially is this. Can you consider any movements in 2 or 3? Can you all take a look at that? Whether you move into the same career but different industry, or same industry but different career. Yes, Darren. Mm, okay. 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 The assumption that I'm not making the assumption about pay. I'm not making assumption about seniority of job or whatever. No. All right. What I'm suggesting here, you take a look at, for example, let's say now you are working as an accountant, all right, in a F&B outlet, F&B company, let's say. Okay. So what is your option as an accountant? Can you be an accountant in a different industry? So you bring your same skill sets, but you apply it in a different industry. That's one option. Or can you move into a different role within the same industry? So you continue as an F&B person, right? But maybe instead of being an accountant, can you be, let's say, somebody in operations within the F&B? Okay, so the whole idea of this is that you want to have a strong leg to stand on. You don't want to go into a situation where you have nothing strong to stand on. So the strong leg to stand on could be familiarity with the same job, but you just apply in a different industry, or you're very familiar with the industry, but you do something slightly different. So you have some transferable skills or experience that you can rely on. That is what I'm trying to get at. So I'm not talking about seniority, because there could be situations where you may need to take some sacrifices. Career switching, all right, may need you to make some hard decisions about whether you are willing make a sacrifice to take maybe a slight pay cut to go in a different area simply because you have a longer goal in mind, saying that eventually, after gaining some experience in that industry or in that new job, I move up, then eventually I catch up with to the same salary levels that I got last time. I'll give you my example, okay, Darren. Previously, I was working in IT. I was in Big Blue, right? I jumped after 2 years in Big Blue in IT, sales and marketing. I jumped to FMCG. Now, at that point when I jumped, my colleagues in in IT were already earning more than me. Okay, but the reason why I made the jump was because I didn't feel right in IT. Right? I didn't feel that with my own experience and my own background, I won't be able to progress much. So I went into a different industry. I was much happier in FMCG. And eventually, as I grew and progressed within the industry, I actually exceeded or became the same pay as my colleagues, my ex-colleagues in IT. Okay, so it all depends on what you are willing to do, what's your runway, what is your view of progression that you're going to go for. That's what I'm saying. So don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that you give up your consideration about same pay grade. Okay, I'm not saying that. Okay, you may have a situation like, for example, especially like accountants. If you're an accountant, a lot of your skills are transferable to the different industry. So if your skills are very much more transferable, then chances are you will not get a pay cut. Okay, if your skills are maybe not totally 100% transferable, maybe 50, 60, 70% transferable, okay, then it all depends on how you convey your value to the third party and say, yes, I can solve your problems, and therefore they are willing to pay you the same amount, or if not the salary, then maybe at least they package it such that holistically, you know is quite close to what you were earning previously in terms of total salary, right? It's not about money, maybe about benefits and all that as well. Or maybe the situation could be as simple as you going into a situation where, because you are more senior now, you are willing to, your family time is more important. So the new job gives you more family flexible time. You are willing to go for that, even though it's at a lower salary. So it depends on what your priorities are. Okay, so those are the things that we need to consider. Okay. Any questions? Any other questions here? Oh, Darren is out. Okay. Any other questions here? Are we okay with this concept? Okay. So the thing here now is this. Okay, making a career switch, the whole idea of making a career switch. Darren, you just came back. I just saw you went out. Okay, so I don't know, Darren, did I answer your question or is there something else in your head? Wh- So, yeah. So what you're saying, so you're saying that you want to go straight into four, is that right? Okay. 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 Right. Right. Yeah. Mm, yeah. Understand totally. Understand totally. I think when you are at that stage, you really got to sit down and think about what are the things you really need to do and sacrifice. For example, what are your priorities? Because I have got a lot of people who want to make career switches, and they are saying that they are giving me two conditions. One, I want to do it immediately, and two, I want to earn same or more as what I did the last time. Okay, so I present a reality here is that number one, making a career switch you cannot do immediately. There's no way to do that. Okay, you got to put in some time, you got to spend some invest in some time and effort to make sure that you switch to the right place that you want to go for. Okay. Secondly, depending on where you're going to, you may or may not get the same pay, right? But again, you got to look at, if you cannot afford to wait, then can you do something in interim while at the same time you are harvesting the ground to move into the situation that you want to go for? What do we mean by that? Either maybe doing some contract work, for example, or going for some courses, or just doing something that fills in the bread and butter time, whatever, so that eventually you are able to step into something that you want to go for. Okay, so that's usually the thinking behind what we may need to do in terms of making a career switch. That's what I'm saying. Oh. So there's no easy way to do this. There's no flick of the switch. As far as career switches are concerned, there's no flick of the switch. You have to look at it. But I think the reality here is very clear, right? That when you are making career switch, you have to look at how much time can you spend, how much time can you afford before you move to the situation that ideally you want. I have a case of a person, I've heard of a case of a person who actually waited almost 7 years before he went into his so-called ideal job. But even that job wasn't ideal because he had to move away from his family, and he only took it up because after searching for so long, he got no choice. Okay, so but in the meantime he wasn't doing any work, and then until he sort of uh, wore down his savings, and his wife was working as well, and so it got to a stage where he couldn't wait any longer. So those are the questions we have to ask ourselves when we're looking at things like this, because when you are making a career switch, it is not just ourselves, we are doing it in conjunction with how it impacts our family and the people around us. That's why career switching is such a major activity. Okay, Darren, if you like, I can spend more time with you after the session. Then we can talk a little bit more about your situation if you feel that that's more comfortable for you. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So I just want to sort of make sure that we understand this. Okay, this one here I'm flashing up is basically elements of a course, an e-course that I've done about career switching. Okay, but at the same time, I've actually done career switching workshops, and I've recorded this into a YouTube. So let me share the YouTube channel with you. So if you want, you can take a look at that. I copy and paste into the chat box. So if you want, you can take a look at that. So that essentially was the workshop that I did, right, with WSG about career switching. Okay, so what I mentioned here is much more elaborated in that particular YouTube itself. That workshop itself was a 3-hour workshop. Okay, at the same time, and I'll share this again towards the end. If you want, you can go for my e-course, which I put together, that tells you more about the exercises regarding changing careers. Okay, so that's as much I would say right now. Okay, so I've talked about this part of it, conducting experiments. Okay, part of the process of finding yourself, what possible self you have. And essentially, the things that you want to look at are things like examining what you are good at in terms of your skills, your strengths. You have to be adaptable. You have to be open to new ideas, new ways of doing things. You need support. Okay, whenever you're doing things like this where it involves change, it's not just you alone, it's people around you. So you need their support as well. Okay, manage your own expectations, manage your own outlook. Okay? As with any experiments, you always evaluate what you have done. If you need to reset, you reset. Okay, so it's always taking a look at the things you have done and say, did the outcome suit me? If not, do something different. So all this whole process, experimental process, gives you an idea of what suits you, what you can do, what you would like to do moving forward. Okay. Any questions on this section first? Any questions on this section? Okay. Why don't I give you a 5 minute break? Try and digest the things that we've gone through just now. All right. And then we come back, I will deal with the outreach portion, which is going to cover the other two bits of that pie. Okay. So 5 minutes. Is that all right? Okay. I see you guys in 5 minutes then. In the meantime, if you've got any questions, just type into the chat box. I'll try my best to answer them again, either when we come back or towards the end of it. All right. I see you in a while.
5 minutes later.
Okay. 5 minutes is up. Hope everybody had a chance to stretch yourselves and, you know, try and review what we've gone through. Any questions that you may want to ask again, or you want to feel that you want to hold it until towards the end, that's fine by me as well. Okay. I anticipate going at the rate that we're going that we probably can finish at about 3:30 thereabout. So we have plenty of time to have a discussion later on. Okay. That's okay. All right. If there's no other questions regarding this particular portion, then let me move on to the last portion, which is the outreach side. The outreach. How do we then go about telling people of the things that we want to do? Okay. So essentially, we are looking at these two portions, these two parts of the pie, expanding connections and telling a new story. Telling a new story. Okay, so let's deal with this first one first. Expanding connections. Expanding connections. Can you tell me why do you think it is important? What is the purpose of connecting with many people, building a network? What is the purpose of that? Can you type into the chat box? What is the purpose of doing? Okay, what is the purpose of doing networking, Darren? What is the purpose of doing networking? Are you doing networking just for the sake of networking, or is there a purpose in mind? What do you guys think? Okay, Gary, hidden job market. Gary is a very good student. He's been to many of my workshops. All right. So, yeah. Okay. Getting referrals and all that. So, essentially, the whole idea of connecting up with different groups of people, reinforcing and rebuilding and building networks, your own network, is really to try and uncover jobs that are not advertised, hidden jobs. Because I think somebody mentioned in there, we Jim mentioned 80% of the jobs are not advertised. Okay, some of you may be very shocked or surprised to hear this, right? Now, incidentally, I'm doing a workshop on the hidden job market on the 9th of November. So if you want to hear more about this, feel free to sign up on the 9th of November. Okay, later on, I'll give you all the dates. Right, you can take a look. Okay, so the whole purpose of building a network, right, is to try and find out what opportunities there are, and having these people tell you about this, or having these people keep you in mind when these opportunities come up. Okay, like what we Jen has mentioned, they refer you to that job. All right. So networking. Networking is about what? Some people say build a network. Networking is a four-letter word. Okay, because they don't like to do networking. So networking essentially is about building relationships. Okay, so it is about getting to know people and letting people get to know you. So relationships, just focus on the word relationship. Don't think about network as a network, that word itself, because many a time you think of it as negative. So think of building relationships. So who are the people you can build relationships with? What do you guys think? Can you type into the chat box examples of groups of people you can build relationships with? Anyone? Who are the type of people? Yeah, recruiters can be, Immediate contact. Who are the immediate contacts? Your first level, okay? They could be what? They could be colleagues, friends, yeah? Eh? People who are working in an industry that you want to go into. You're right, Wei Jian. Okay? So essentially, you're looking at these types of people, right? Friends, colleagues, people in the target company or target industry that you're going to, people who are doing the job that you want to do, okay? Or it could be just your industry peers, people who are working in the same industry as you, all right? So these are the people you can build relationships with, okay? Now, I've been often asked, but then my contact is so small. I don't have many, I don't know many people. Consider this notion of first level, second level, third level. Okay? Its research has shown that the most effective network is not the first level. The first level are people you know directly. It is not the first level. The most effective network are the people who are in the second and the third level. Okay? Those are the people that are most effective. So those of you who say that you have you only know a small group of people, what about the people that they know? Okay? Those are the people that probably will be able to help you better. Okay, so consider this. Now, this is not a networking workshop, so I'm not going to elaborate more on this. If you want, you can come to the 9th November workshop and I talk a little bit more about that. But essentially, this is the case. Okay, now just to bear in mind, building relationships, you could do it online and offline, right now. Okay, online and offline. So whether you're through LinkedIn, Facebook, offline through events, many of us are going to events nowadays, career fairs and all that. So those are possible. Okay. So the question here we all have to think here is when we meet people, whether it's online or offline, you take a look at the boxes here, yellow or red box. Okay. What is the focus you need to have when you're meeting people for the first time? Are you focusing on the red box or are you focusing on the yellow box? What do you guys think? Okay. Are you focusing on the red box or the yellow box? You want to type into the chat box? Okay. Some people say yellow. No, yellow seems to have more of a vote. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Focus on those items in the yellow box because you want to build their support. All right. So you are focusing on getting information. You want to connect up with them. And at some point, they will refer you to somebody else. Okay. That is the focus. It is not about going up to the person you just met and say, "Do you have a job for me?" No, that is the fastest way to turn off that person. Okay. I remember many years ago when I was managing an MBA program, right? Where my graduates, my MBA students were all mid-career people, quite senior. And then whenever they approach an alumni event, my alumni come and complain to me and say, "Wow, your students very bad. First thing they come to me, I don't even know them, and they ask me for a job already." Okay, so focus on those items in the yellow box. Eventually, once you build a relationship, those items in the red box will come in to play. Okay, so at the end, it is not about asking for a job, right? Bear this in mind. It is about developing your own credibility when you are building relationships. Okay, so that's one bit, right? Building relationships, building a network of people that will get to know you so that they can refer you to opportunities that they know about. In effect, they become your recruiter. you know they become your recruiter. They will tell other people, "Hey, hire this person, hire Darren, hire Jaslyn because I know her, I know she can do well. Hire Wei Chen because he has got a nice smile, that sort of thing." Okay, so that is the purpose. All right, this is individuals. Next thing, think about what organizations do you need to target. What organizations, what companies you want to work for. Now, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to know about which companies you want to work for? Well, it's very simple. Okay, all of us have aspirations where we're looking for a job to say, oh, I think I want to work for that company because the company has a good reputation, or the what I heard about the company is very good. I want to work in that environment. Okay, or you're saying that, oh, that company is progressing very fast, or the company is working in an area that I'm very interested in. So most of the time we identify the organization first. Okay, so it makes sense then, why don't we then make the effort to target, to identify which organizations we want to join, we want to work in. Okay, so it does make sense. All right, and the work that you did in terms of your professional identity this morning will come into play now. Okay, very obviously, I'll show you why. Okay, so here there are a few steps you can do. If you want, you can take note of this again. All right, so I'm going to go through with you each step. Okay, maybe take some examples from you guys lah, because I'm doing too much of my talking already. Okay, first step, identify a company. How do you identify a company? Obviously, many of you would have some idea of a company that you want to work for. Those of you maybe we still want to look around, you can scan into the industry that you know, or maybe even you don't know the industry, do your legwork. Okay, find out about what's the trend, what are the growth segments, Google them online and see what's going on there. Talk to your network, right? People you trust, and say, what type of companies are out there that will fit your profile. Right? Do some digging. Do some digging. Okay. I'm sure many of you already got some in mind. Can you all give me examples of companies that you are so very keen to work for? Can you type into the chat box? Let's use that as an example to discuss the rest of the columns. Anybody want to put in a company that they feel that they would like to target? Anyone? You type into the chat box. Okay, Linda says DBS, Google. Who else? Only two? DBS, Google. Let's go by majority vote and see who got anybody else. Okay, DBS and Google. So it looks like only two companies. All of you got the FMCG companies, Apple. Okay. Wei Jian, FMCG, any particular type of FMCGs? Unilever or P&G? Okay. Let's use FMCG because that was my first background. Okay, so maybe I'm familiar with that. Let's try this out. Okay, and this you could also apply to other companies. The same logic applies. So let's say P&G, Procter and Gamble. Okay, so once you identify, say, okay, after going through those in the green column, then you say, oh, P&G is on my short list, so let's put down P&G. Next question you ask yourself, why does this company excite me? Why does P&G excite me? Any idea? Wei Jian, what do you think? Why does P&G excite you? Okay. Why was it good for you? Okay. So okay. So it's the way they treat employees is pretty good, right? Okay. Anything else? Anything about their products or the location that interests you? Okay. 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 So maybe you're interested in developing markets, maybe that's where you want to end up doing. Okay, fine, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, good. Thank you, Wei Jian. So why this company excites me? Okay, Linda also says good benefits, which is true actually. FMCG actually gives quite good benefits. Okay. Trust me, I know. I spent 8 years of my life in an FMCG company. I know the benefits. Okay. Ah, ah, okay, okay. That's why they don't know what they miss lah, Linda. Okay. Okay, but good. Yeah, it's not easy to get in. Right. Okay, so why this company excites you, you listed that down. So then the next thing here you ask yourself is this, okay, exciting to me is only part of the story. How can I relate to this company? Okay. How do I fit in to this company? Is it because of the skills I have, the experience I have? Is it the values, the company values match with my values? Is it the company's own branding fits with my own personal brand? So for example, you say that, I really want to be a marketing person, so FMCG is a marketing driven organization, could be that. So ask yourself, why do you fit in? Okay, so this one becomes quite important already, because once you're convinced how you fit in, the other questions that you're going to answer becomes relatively more simple. Okay, relatively more simple. Are we okay with this so far? All right, so the first three: identify a company, identify why this company excites you, right? All right, it could be something, your passion, your past experience with them, it matches your interests and all. Then more importantly, now after you've answered that, how can you relate to this company? Why do I fit into this company? Okay, so that's important. Now, this could be related also to the next element, is how can you help the company? How can you help the company? Okay, so if I bring you back to the exercise we did this morning about your problem solving skills, remember, you have this set of skills and experience, how you solve the problem. Okay, so how can I help the company? What issues or what problems can I solve? Okay, so let's say I take the example of P&G. What problems do you think you can help solve in P&G? Wijen, what do you think? Any idea?
TNT mostly is in developed markets like your North America, and so their competitor Unilever is going to the developing markets, so they
Okay,
probably have to go into the developing markets as well.
right. Okay, so where do you fit into this? How can you help them go into the developing markets? Okay. So one of the ways you can tell, I'm assuming you may have this experience, you may or may not, is that you have experience in working in the developing countries in Southeast Asia. For example, say you have lived in Malaysia, Indonesia, you know the culture, so you can say that, oh, I can help them expand because I've lived in those countries. Okay, so that's one way. All right, so another way could be that you are very familiar with the retail distribution outlets in those countries, or the way P&G operates. You can say that, oh, I'm very experienced in this. I'll give you one example of a client who managed to get into Amazon in Singapore. Okay, so he found out about Amazon. They were coming to Singapore to set up a regional hub here, right? He was working in distribution. Okay, so when he was looking for a change, he saw, oh, Amazon is coming in. Then when we asked this question, how can you help Amazon? Straight away, the first thing, his relevancy is very strong, because he said, I have experience in distribution, managing distribution chains, setting up distribution hubs, and I know Amazon is coming in to do that, and therefore I can help them. Okay, and the only way you can find this out is if you dig deeper, find out what they are doing, why they are growing, how they are growing, what problems or issues they could potentially face. Then you see how you can help them. That's where the match comes in. All right, so that's why the exercise you did this morning about your problem solving skills is important, because then it helps you. Once you identify the problems that the company is facing, then the company is facing that problem. I have the skill set to help solve that problem. Straight away, you find a match already. Okay, so that's the quick and dirty way. All right. Okay. So once you have all that, now obviously you're not going to choose just one company. You're not just going to choose one company, right? You may choose more than one. In fact, the recommendation is probably you come up to maybe about 8 to 10 companies, right? Just to shortlist. Five, if you're starting out, okay, right? But I always tell my clients, say, don't try to shoot for too many. All right. More than 10 is usually not manageable already, because then you're going all over the shop. Right? You start off slowly, you build it up, right? Now, this notion of theme, this part here, is important, all right? Because once you compile all the companies, then you start identifying. hey, all those companies are actually working in the tech industry, or all those companies are actually in the FMCG industry, or all those companies are US MNCs, you know, or all those companies are selling to young adults. Huh? So you can see a theme there. So when a new when you come across a new company, actually it's then very easy for you to see whether it fits into any of those themes. Right? Then you start thinking about how you can help them. Okay? Are we okay with this? Okay. So essentially, like I said, it takes a lot of legwork for you guys when you want to redesign, relook at whole thing, because it is not just about snapping your finger and you're able to jump into a new situation very easily. You need to do the legwork and identifying a company, making sure that you can identify the areas that you can help them, those areas that matches your experience and skills. Those are critical steps. All right. So please make the effort to do so. This will increase your chances of connecting with those companies. Any questions at this point? Any questions at this point? Okay. So I've talked about connections. Okay. I talked about building individual connections through relationships. I talked about identifying companies that you want to target to work in and work for eventually. Okay. So what does this involve? This involves you being able to identify where you can add value to them. Okay, in other words, how you solve their problems, what benefits you bring to the table. This involves you building relationships with key people, people that can help you go to where you want to go. All right. Branding, personal branding is important. Okay. I come back to this notion of support again. You should not be operating alone in this whole endeavor. All right. You are not an island. Huh? You are working in a context where you have people around you. So don't ignore them. All right. If you need their support, ask for support from them. You should not be working alone in this. Okay. Whether it's your spouse, your family, your friends, even your network. Right. One of the benefits of having a close network is that you can reach out to them for support as well. Now, many a time in these workshops, when I do face-to-face live workshops in groups like this, 30 over people, okay, at the end of the workshop, sometimes they become their own support group, okay, because the interaction in the live session is higher. Okay, so get support where you can. Are we okay with this? Yeah? Okay. So let me talk about this next portion, telling a new story. Do you want a 5 minute break? It seems like energies are flagging. I feel the no, Darren, you're okay. Everybody else is okay. If you okay, those people who want a break, type into the chat box. If not, then I'm going to continue and brush through. It's- okay, seems like the continuing voices are louder. Okay, so let's go on. All right. So telling a new story, yeah, telling a new story. So when you are meeting all these people in your relationships, your network, and all that, so the next step now is to try and convince them. They say, hey, Linda is a good person to hire. I want to hire her. What is a story you're going to tell them? Okay. Now, I want to get across one concept. Those who come to my previous workshop will know this concept. Employers are risk averse. What do you think it means? Why do I say employers are risk averse? Think about it. If you put on the hat of somebody who's looking for a new candidate, why are you risk averse? In other words, you don't want to take risks. Why? Anyone? You can type into the chat box. Why are employers? Yes, Linda. Ah,
the CEO told him is because of culture misfit.
Oh, okay.
Go through the probation. How does he know that culture misfit, right?
Okay. So maybe they have their own way lah. Or maybe they are also thinking of alternatives because they may have found someone who has a better fit. So maybe it's not just about you. Oh, how do you know? Did they tell you they haven't found anybody? Ah, okay. So maybe there was just something that made them feel uncomfortable. I don't know what it is. Okay. But every company has certain quirks, lah, to be frank. To be frank. Okay. So I saw some comments here. They say that they don't want to take a candidate who can't do the job. They want they don't want people to disrupt workflow costs and all that. And maybe like what Linda says, well, they want somebody who can work with the rest of the team and all. Could be that. Okay, so could be a lot of reasons. So employers are risk adverse. Okay, so they want to minimize risk. So if you think of it that way, so essentially at the end of the day, really it is not about you, right? Or not? Okay, you may think, wow, I want to sell myself, I'll say tell people how good I am and all that. At the end of the day, that's not what counts. No, what counts more than just you? What do you think? It's not just about you. Okay, it's really about how you can help them. It's about how you can help them. So there's no point going there and telling people, oh, I'm an expert in this, I'm very good in that and all that. But if those things that you're good at, or you didn't communicate well enough to say that those things that you're good at will help solve their problems, then maybe they'll look elsewhere. Okay, so it is about how you can help them. Okay, so again it comes back to the exercise you did this morning. How do you help solve problems? How do you help solve problems? Okay, so this little exercise itself, and the focus here is really about how you add value to the person sitting across from you, or to even to the person you're talking to virtually on the network, on your in your network.
Questions?
Hi, Darren. Yes.
Yes. Okay. If you were talking about values and you're talking about what we can help. If let's say most of the time I got into the third interview, so I should have already passed this question, right?
Well, it all depends, to be frank, because okay, generally the rough rule of thumb is that at different interview stages they are looking at different things, right? So maybe Darren, you can tell me, first interview was with whom, second was with whom, third was with whom.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Right.
they don't do logic tests.
Right.
1 hour in front of the audience, the panel.
Okay.
Then the second one was the hiring manager.
Ah.
The hiring manager immediately tell you, yeah, you're the one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Just basically introduce himself and then he say,
Okay. Okay.
Feedback thing. Either they got their people or they saw my face. I'm not one.
No. Well, I
Then
mean, yes. Right. Okay. Yeah.
And then they are looking for somebody from their own.
Okay.
And the hiring manager is a lot younger.
Yeah.
Than myself, but I
Okay.
think we can talk because basically.
Okay. Understand. I'm sorry to hear of your negative experiences, Darren. All right. I think I won't say that this is abnormal or this is normal, because I've heard situations of this happening. Now, one thing is, I mean, the thing about going through multiple interview levels is that each level they look at different things, as you all yourself such experience, right? First level is your technical skills, can you do the job, right? Second level is how well you work with your immediate boss, right? The third level, usually when you're talking to somebody who's above your immediate boss, is really looking at what other, I mean, for one of a better word, I'm not saying that you don't have it, but they are looking down the line. how can you fit into the bigger picture? How can you, is there a bigger picture person for you? Is there a bigger picture role for you? Or, it could be political, like maybe what you are suggesting, right? That, they are looking at somebody who's maybe a different nationality or whatever. All these things come into play, and these things are sometimes things that you cannot control, to be frank with you. Okay, so it could be things like this boss, he was under pressure by his boss, okay, to hire somebody from internal. So he's just going through the motion of interviewing, and then eventually he hires somebody who's from maybe that country, and then he parachute that person into Singapore as part of a progression rate. I've seen that happen. Okay, so that could be possible. Or another possibility here could be, the company, at the stage where you're doing the third interview, something has happened economically, or their budget reporting came in. It sort of made them rethink their whole hiring process. Could be. I'm just speculating here as a possible reason, because again, I have seen that happen as well. Okay, so these are things that, like it or not, it does happen, unfortunately. That's all I can say. So I think what you did, Darren, was good in that you have demonstrated value, you have gone through the stages, you have convinced your immediate boss. But sometimes when you go beyond that, there are just things that you cannot control. They're just things that are outside your control. you know so unfortunately, that's part and parcel of working in a multinational, to be frank. That's part and parcel of working in a multinational. Mm. Ah, right. Okay. 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 Again, like I said, maybe because they may have other considerations in mind, not just what your boss is thinking. He may be the boss, meaning the person, the hiring manager. That person, the final interview could be looking at something that is organization wide. Right? So that he or she is considering other factors that come in. So not just the person, you sitting in front of them, but how you fit into the bigger picture, the whole process itself. Lah. Yeah, that's what I mean by the bigger picture, Linda. But like I said, when you're working for big companies, right, or when you're targeting big companies, this is the risk that happens. When you go through multiple levels, you convince one group, you convince the next group. Sometimes the third group, somebody who you have not established a relationship with, or somebody who's not even based in this country, who doesn't know the context of this country. But unfortunately, because of the way the company is run, they make that decision. So, you know, that's how it happened, lah, to be frank. Okay. But I think persevere, keep trying. I think that's the only thing here. The other thing that you may want to look at now is, if after multiple tries this keeps happening, then maybe you want to re-examine to say the type of companies that you're going for. Because if the interview stages keep stopping at that same stage where it's determined by other parties, okay, then maybe you start thinking, those type of companies, are they the right companies that I should be targeting? Maybe it's a question you have to ask yourself. What are the alternatives? Okay. So a question to ask. Yes.
Interviewed by peers, but I think there is a lot of anxiety from the look at the interviewee.
Or is it?
Basically, I have done more in this industry,
Hmm.
and I can see they don't know a lot of terminology, a lot of
Okay.
way of doing things out there.
Okay. Okay.
So I had at least two interviews that actually went through, and then
Ah.
it's kind of like I know it's gone already because that
Ah.
guy
Ah.
practically just 2 years in the industry and he's
Yeah.
trying to interview me.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not going to be chosen because me and him it will be probably in a team.
Yeah.
We will each host a group
Right.
the sales group.
Right.
So that is the part where I find it's quite a difficult situation we will get in, because
Yeah.
most of the time when the peer is always younger than you,
Yeah.
means less experienced than you.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I understand where you're coming from, and in many cases, you are probably right to think about it that way. But I would also suggest that if the opportunity comes up and you do get called up, despite your misgivings, to go and try again as well, because don't write it off immediately. But you are right to say that there are many people who are concerned that their subordinates are more experienced than them, right? Then that signals probably to you that that person doesn't have the confidence in managing you, all right? But at the same time, also maybe you can also, if you come across a situation again, which this question I'm going to address later on, but I can address it quickly now, is that when you come across this situation again where the person hiring you is worried that you may not fit into the team because everybody else is younger than you, right? Then you gotta, maybe you have the opportunity, you need to then demonstrate to them past examples of you working with younger group of people, past examples of you working in a team environment, and being able to get along with people, uh, just to sort of placate. I would say placate is the wrong word, but just to make sure that they understand that you can still do it, and that you have a valuable part to play in the whole team setup. Yeah. I have clients who were actually older, okay, but they managed to get into a new industry. They were really keen on the industry where they said, despite my experience, my work, but because I bring to the table this amount of experience, and I'm able to help my other teammates, so that you, Mr. Supervisor, can take it easier. I can help you mentor them. I can help you manage them as well. You know, the person hired her because he was confident that, yes, I think this person is valuable to the team, right? And but at the same time, that person also feels that they can trust her because she's not trying to take his job. Because at the end, sometimes that's the fear also, right? You are going to take his job. And I know it's an immature thinking, but that's the reality that many people think about as well. No? Okay, thank you for that discussion, because I think those are really good questions. So let me run this through, and then maybe very quickly we can come to the end part where we're going to talk about that major portion itself. So let me just check on timing. Okay, so I've got a few more slides, and then we can stop for a break. Okay, so all right, so what we are talking about here when we are telling a new story, right? And it's really about how we brand ourselves. It's about personal branding. Okay. And in personal branding, again, this notion of solving problems come in. Okay. So again, this is not a personal branding workshop, but I would like to refer you to a past workshop that I've done, all right, on this topic, and it is recorded on YouTube as well. So let me copy that link for you so that you can take a look at that at your own time. Okay. Okay. So the link is in the chat group. So essentially in that workshop, I emphasize this notion of, when you are looking at personal branding helps you convince other people that you are the right person for the job, or it helps you uncover hidden opportunities, right? And how do you do it? In today's world, it is really about how you use build online connections, like LinkedIn, for example. That's the reality of today's world now. Okay, although offline still is quite important. Okay, so personal branding. I want to talk a little bit about this notion of informational interviews. Informational interviews. Okay, what is informational interviews? Can I get some inputs from you guys now? Those of you who are in front of a computer now, can you Google informational interviews? Google it and copy the definition into the chat box. What is informational interview? Or those of you who already know what is informational interviews, type it into the chat box what you think informational interview is. Right? For those of you who don't know, Google it. Type into the chat box what is the definition you see. Okay, it's not interview, but to know the success story. Okay, so let me show the chat. Informal conversation you can have with someone working in an area of interest to you. It is an effective research tool and is best done after preliminary online research. It is not a job interview, and the objective is not to find job openings. Very good, Wei Jian. Okay, so essentially, all right, informational interview is really about what? It's an informal meeting with another person who's established in that field or work or organization that you are thinking of joining. Okay, it's an informal meeting. Here is an opportunity for you to find out if the company or the industry is in line with your own values, skills, and interests. Okay, so in other words, the focus during that informational interview is not about asking for a job. It is more about finding out information about that particular role that person is doing or the company that person is working in. All right. So informational interview is also a way for you to build relationships with a new group of people. It's a way to develop your own network of supporters to help uncover hidden opportunities. All right. Now, I'm not going to cover this because I will cover it in the hidden job market workshop, and then it's in the videos as well. I've linked to you so you can take a look at that. And there's also a lot of information online about hidden informational interviews. Okay, but it is a very, very useful tool for you to go about telling a new story about yourself. Okay, so think about that. All right. So we've talked about how we tell a new story. Right? And what do we do in those in telling a new story? We talk about branding. Okay. In the process of telling people what you want to do, what you like to do, what you intend to do, right? Maybe it's about showing conviction to the other party that that is the right role for you. Okay. Sometimes it's about visualizing you doing that thing. Those of you who are very familiar with the visualizing technique, it's just you sitting down and thinking, what does it take? What are you doing when you are in that new role? Okay. Sometimes it's about you actually embarking on that new role, whether it's on a voluntary basis, internship basis, whatever, just to show people your commitment level. Okay, because telling a new story, telling people that you want to go into a new area is not enough. You just telling them, Mr. A, I'm very interested in the area, I want to go into that. It's not enough. Okay, it's also about you being having conviction to tell that people, I want to do this because I'm really keen, I'm very passionate about this, I have done this before, I've tried my hand in this area, I volunteer in this area. Those sort of activities that show other people that you are actually committed and you're really keen in this area. Okay, so that is how you tell a new story. All right, so the outreach portion, okay, looking at the three portions of the pie there. Okay, conducting experiments, expanding your connections, your relationships, and then moving on to the process of telling a new story. Okay, all these are linked together. All these are linked together. Okay, at this point, anybody got any questions about what we have covered over the last hour or so? Okay, let's move on and approach the final portion, which is the summary, and then we'll talk about the Q&As. which I see a lot of questions eager to be burst out and to be answered, to address. Okay, so let me summarize what we did today. Okay, we've gone through the last few hours, quite a lot of stuff. Okay, so for those of you who have stuck it out, okay, the majority of you have stuck it out for the last few hours. I congratulate you for your perseverance and your resilience. Okay, hopefully, you have by now gotten some idea of how to determine your professional identity. At the same time, what is the redesign process that you can go through, and also how you can communicate outwards to the people the things that you're going through and the things that you want to do. Okay, so here, right, if I talk about professional identity, if you followed my train of thought and my argument, won't say it's an argument lah, but it's a train of thought that really it is about what? Helping people, right? Work is about helping people. It's identifying the benefit that we give, and then success is how good we are at helping others, right? And the way we do this is really through a combination of the things that we are good at, our experiences, our skills. And at the same time, it's also our motivation to do the things that we do. Okay. So again, here, my suggestion here is that if you have difficulty identifying your passion, why not look at it the other way and look at it as a purpose? What is your purpose? Because for many people, that seems to be an easier way to go about doing things. Okay, what is my purpose? Okay. The other bit that we did was really going through an exercise where we determine what are your problem solving areas. What problems can you solve? Because by identifying what problems you can solve, it's so much easier for you to be able to identify companies and organizations that's going through those problems. And then you present yourself in front of them and say, hey, Mr. Company A, I can help you. Right? So at the end of the day, it's really about how you can help people, who you help, and then what sort of problems you solve. And when you're good at that, you are successful. Then we spent the afternoon going through this portion of the redesign process. And what do we mean by this? I put it across to you in the form of conducting experiments, trying to find out what's best for us. Okay, and by doing that, maybe you open up additional options. It's not just about quitting straight away as a knee-jerk reaction. Maybe it's not about just jumping into a totally new area. Maybe you want to consider aspects where are of the things that you can change in what you're currently doing. Maybe that's a possibility. Okay, so to help do that, are there any ways that you can do to change the perspective of your thinking, the things that you're going through, and the things that you're doing? Okay, or is there a way to focus on problems that are actually controllable and manageable by you? Okay, instead of devoting energies and emotions into areas that you have no control over. Okay. We talked about the outreach process, right? And here we really focus on the other two pies. The first one, which was building relationships or expanding connections. Okay. And here, the focus here is not about finding a job, right? It is about developing credibility so that you can uncover hidden opportunities. Okay. That's for individuals. It's also equally important for you to consider what type of companies that you're targeting. Now, this is especially relevant for those of us who are mature workers whose runway is not as long. We cannot afford to have trial and error. So it is better for us to make sure we put in the effort at the initial stage, whether that company is the right company for us. Now, those of you who are younger than 40, I feel that this is also a useful way to go about looking for opportunities that are hidden and be more targeted to the companies that you want to work for. Then we talked about how you communicate your news story. Tell your news story to the relevant people out there. Be convincing, right? Leverage on the brand that you built for yourself. And this brand is built upon your own professional identity. Okay? You use this brand when you tell your news story, but at the same time, you use your brand also as a lever in terms of your relationship building, in terms of your network building. Okay? So personal branding comes to the fore, and the focus on personal branding here is how you add value to the other party. How you add value to the other party. Okay? So I mentioned earlier on, employers are risk averse. So really, at the end of the day, if you can position yourself as someone who can solve their problem, you become an asset instead of a risk. Okay? So you want to position yourself as an asset, not a risk. Okay. So that was a short summary of the things that we talked about for the last few hours or so. So now we go into the Q&As, right? We can talk about general Q&As or we can talk about something specific to this topic itself. Okay, so I've already sort of copied and pasted some of the questions that somebody have asked earlier, but I want to address the questions that some of you have written to me before today's workshop as a kickstart to this whole Q&A process. Right, I hope you don't mind I go through that, then I'll answer the specific questions as in the chat box itself. Okay, right. So I have received multiple questions essentially on the same topic. Okay, it is about how older workers can cope in today's world in terms of job seeking. Okay, and I have a sense that looking at the chats in the chat box as well, that many of you are also considering this. So this is probably a good way to enter this segment of the Q&A. Okay, the common questions that have been asked was how can older workers position themselves in the right way when they're either coming back to the market, right? How can they be convincing and not shortchange themselves if they're going for a smaller role? Okay, how can they be credible to the person sitting in front of them when you are trying to angle for a job? Okay, so those were the common questions I have been asked, and I want to address this today. Now, bear in mind, this is not a workshop on ageism. In fact, those questions and some of the comments you have here have given me some ideas that maybe I should ask WSG to also pitch a workshop just purely targeting at the mature workers 40 and above. Okay, because I think there are a lot of specific areas which seems to be of quite great interest here. But nevertheless, let me touch on this. Okay, so first things first, let me set the reality here. The reality here. What do employers want in the candidates? Can you all type into the chat box, regardless of young or old, right? What do employers want in a candidate when they are going to hire them? Can you type into the chat box? What do you think employers are looking for when they are trying to hire someone to fill up a role? Can you type in the chat box? Because I need you to think from the employer's perspective first. Okay. Fast problem solver. Okay. What else is there? Execution achievements, able to adapt to company culture. Anything else? Someone looking very similar to themselves. Interesting. Compliant, competent, and able to compensate. Okay, interesting. Compliant is maybe not a word that many of us older workers would like to hear, but nevertheless. Okay, so what else is there? Oops, somebody sent the email here, but all right. So what other things that employers looking for? Do you all know? What others are things employers are looking for? Okay, so let me sort of share this. Okay, share this here. Okay, let me just see. Somebody's okay, able to support hiring manager. So essentially, yeah, employers are looking for people who have the right skills, the relevant skills. Okay, that's the first thing. The skills, the relevant experiences as well. Okay, so note the word relevant. Okay, so if you don't have the relevant skills, then you got to update your own skill sets. Correct. Okay. Somebody mentioned least cost. Reality is there. They don't want if employers can get away with spending the least money on a particular candidate, they will. That's a reality. Okay. So it is up to us to convince them that they should pay more. All right. I'll go into a little bit detail later on. All right. And then
One
employers
question.
want.
Doesn't mean cheaper is good, you know.
I'm not saying that, okay? But some people, to them, at the end of the day, if they compare candidate A and candidate B, if both are the same quality, same person, they'll go for the cheaper one. Okay, unless the other candidate who may be more expensive, but they bring extra things to the table. Okay, so here it is not about comparing A to B, but what extra things can you bring to the table, right? That's what I'm trying to say. I'll elaborate a little bit more later on. Okay, then the last bit here is whether the candidate, young or old, can solve the problem. Okay, so this is the reality here. This is what employers want in a candidate. All right. Now, the other reality here, like it or not, ageism exists. Okay. What do I mean by this? Basically, there are companies, organizations that would prefer younger workers. It's a reality. For whatever reason, they have their very good reasons. Okay. They will tell you whether it's the person needs to get along with my customers, my team, and all that sort of thing. Okay, so they will always have their perception, right? They will always have the perception that younger people are better. Okay, so like it or not. Now, obviously, we can say that that's not right, and I agree with you that's not right, and we should change, and I agree with you we should change, right? But it is a global effort. One, two, three persons cannot change that. Okay, so for us, so what does that do for you, for us as a mature worker wanting to come back into the workforce, wanting to be credible? What can we do? I'm going to come back to this notion here of how we can be assets and not a risk. Okay, so how can mature workers present themselves to be an asset instead of a risk? Okay, how do we present ourselves as an asset, not a risk? Okay, I would suggest a few steps. Okay, first thing here is something that you have gone through this morning, is to be very clear about what your professional identity is. What do you bring to the table? Okay, what do you do? What do you want to do? Where is your value add? All those things encompass your professional identity. Okay, so if you're still not clear, I would suggest you go through the exercises that we've went through this morning to give you a better idea. Okay, but I really think that I mean this applies to not only mature workers but even any job seeker, right? What is your professional identity? Now, the other thing that mature workers should focus more on, because of your advantage is what? You have more experience, all right? But the other advantage is what? You probably have a very good network of people, right? So why not take advantage of that? Okay, so here, go after your network, the people that you know in the industry, or even if you don't know the people in the new industry you're going to, maybe the people that you currently know other people who are in that industry, right? So it's your second and third level, right? Leverage on your network. That is the best way, because these are the people who either will refer you or who knows you. Okay, or rather, let me to be they know you and therefore they refer you to opportunities. Okay, and what are these opportunities? These opportunities are those that are not advertised, that are hidden. Okay, that are hidden. right? So using your network, because you this is where your big advantage comes in. Being a mature worker, you have a wider network, right? You have more experiences, you have a wider network, and you should use this network to uncover hidden opportunities, right? The next thing you need to do, or we need to do as a mature worker, because we don't have a long runway, is what? We need to identify the right organization. Okay, whether it's the culture, whether it's the hiring process, whether no, maybe it's as simple as what do they need, what type of people they need. Okay, how do we identify this? Again, legwork comes in. Okay, talking to your network is one. Getting compiling the list of target companies is another. Okay, but whatever it is, you have to do the legwork. There's no shortcut to this. So for those of you who are thinking you can walk into straight into any organization because you are more experienced and you are older, right? That may be true a few years ago, probably not so true now, okay? Because the market has changed. The market has shifted. Okay? Like it or not, that's the reality. We have to change with the time. So we have to do extra things. We have to do things that we never did before. Okay? Those of you, can you remember, those of you, right, who are old enough, 20, 15 years ago, what was a job search process like? It was very simple, right? You create a standard template resume. You send this resume to multiple companies. Chances are you get called up, go for interview straight away, you go in. That was 15, 20 years ago. So simple. Now can you do this? Now does it work? It doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. So those of you who are still doing that, don't do that. You're wasting your time. Okay? You have to be very customized, very targeted in your approach already. And this not only applies to older workers, but to any people who are seeking a job now. You have to be very targeted and very customized in your approach now. Because at the end of the day, like I mentioned, employers are risk averse. They want to hire the best person possible. Okay, and there's so many people out there they can choose. Okay, so you want to present yourself in the best light possible. Okay, so in terms of strategy, this is what mature workers should be focusing on. Now, what about the other part? Okay, some of you have asked me this question. Then what do we do in terms of the resume and the social media? What can mature workers do? How do we present ourselves? What do we write in the resume? What do we write when we go on LinkedIn and all that? Okay. First things first, I would suggest update yourself. Okay. Update your skill sets. Go for training, go for certification if you feel that you need those skills. So it comes back to identifying what skills you need, what skills you would like to be trained in. And that's where the exercise we did this morning, all right? Your motivated skills, your developmental skills, your burnout skills. Identify that. If you feel you need to update yourself, go and update yourself, right? Update meaning getting additional training, getting additional experiences in those areas that you feel that you want to get more of, right? Then, similarly in resume as well as social media, what do you focus on? Many of us in the old days, when we write resumes and all that, we focus on what responsibilities we have, right now. We say we manage X number of people, we were responsible for X budget and all that. That only tells part of the story. You are missing a big part, especially when you are a mature worker, you have lots of experience. You should also focus more on your accomplishments, what you have done, what you have achieved. That is much more impressive than just your responsibilities, because then it tells people that you can get things done, right? You can solve problems, you can get results, Okay, so accomplishments, listing accomplishments is much more effective than just telling them what responsibilities you have. Okay, accomplishments. And how far back do you go? Rough rule of thumb, especially for those of you who got 30 years working experience, 35 years work experience, like I have 35 years of work experience. Okay, are you going to list down all 35 years? My short answer is no. You're wasting valuable real estate in your resume as well as your LinkedIn profile. Don't list everything down to what school you went to in secondary school and all that. It's useless information. Okay? Rough rule of thumb here is maybe talk about your accomplishments in the last 8 years or so. Okay? If you feel that maybe no 8 to 10 years, okay, fine, okay, fine, but don't stretch beyond 10 years. Because beyond 10 years, then it becomes more, how should I put it? I won't say it's irrelevant, but people will question why are you living on past history? Okay? You want to tell people that whatever skill sets and accomplishments you have, it is still relevant today. Right? Going too far back will tell people that you are fishing. Fishing as in 钓河, not the fishing as in scam. Okay? So you're fishing because you're trying to find something to bring to the table. Okay? So emphasize 8 years or less. Get the accomplishments down. Okay? So that's one set, accomplishments, right? Instead of responsibilities. Yes, maybe you can have one or two liner responsibilities, all right? But accomplishment is more important. Next thing here. Okay. What sort of evidence you want to provide? Okay, this could be within your accomplishments, or this could be within the way you present yourself on social media. Evidence. Evidence of what? When I say social media, I'm really more talking about LinkedIn. All right, because I think probably among the mature workers, LinkedIn is probably a more valid platform. What evidence? Evidence of being able to work with different types of people, teamwork. Okay, so in your social media, in your LinkedIn, give examples or instances of how you have worked with people and achieved something and achieved a desirable outcome. Okay, especially evidence of how you have worked with younger colleagues, whether it's through mentoring, all right, or whether it's through in an actual team environment where you work closely together. Okay, show evidence that you were innovative. You could think differently, you could do things differently. Okay, now why do I list all these things down here? Because these things are essentially the concerns that many employers have regarding older workers. Employers are concerned that you cannot get the job done, you don't know how to do things, right? They are concerned that you can't work with younger people. They are concerned that you cannot think differently, or especially in today's world, think innovatively. That is their concern, right? There's one last concern we have to address. What do you guys think that is? One last concern, which I think many of you have already mentioned. Salary, right? Here, there's no hard and fast rules. But I think the minimum here is that you need to do your research about what is the salary benchmark for the job that you're going for. Okay? What is the salary benchmark? But also, very importantly, you need to match that salary benchmark to the qualifications that are required. If you don't have the qualifications and the skill sets required for that role, please don't expect the same salary. Please don't. Okay? I think those of you who have been bosses before, you will know. Why would you be willing to hire someone, pay someone at the same salary level when they don't have the required background and skill sets or whatever? Okay? So you do your research. Now, if you feel that you have and you deserve more, right, then you have to put together a picture to tell them, the employer, that you have the capability to add more to just the scope of work that you are being interviewed for. More than that. A bit like the T chart where you have the graphic designer and he's able to do all the other things across. Okay, that's where you add value. That's where then you say, wow, this person, he can do more things than just the role itself. I think then maybe it's worthwhile paying him a little bit more. Right? That could be the way to get about getting a higher than average salary. Okay. Now, I did this very, very quickly. In fact, I did this late yesterday because trying to compile all the questions that many of you have been asking by email. So hopefully, I've given you some idea of how you can approach, if you fall into this category, right? How can you approach this situation where you, as a virtual worker, you want to be able to convince prospective employers that you are a good fit or you are a good prospect, right? And it's worthwhile to hire you. Okay. Now everybody is different situation. I understand that. Okay. So what I've listed here is really a very generic approach. Okay. So, but again, I'm pretty sure that looking at this points here, there are certain things that you could probably exercise. Okay. So that's how I'm looking at it. I'll tell you what, I want to very quickly just finish off this, and then if there's any more questions at the end, let's deal with this. But I just want to do some housekeeping here. Okay, so as far as the today's workshop is concerned, can I ask that you help me fill up the survey first? All right, before I sort of close this workshop by sort of talking to you, sharing with you what are the other possibilities of us working together. Okay, so and also how can you get a copy of today's video as well, so that will be coming up in the next portion. So you can see above here, okay, there are some future WSG sessions that I'll be doing. 9th November, attacking the hidden job market. 5th December, 19th December. Okay, now these other workshops are going to be 3 hours, right? Not like today. Today is a full day. The next few workshops are all going to be 3-hour workshops. Okay, typically 2 o'clock to 4:30. All right, so if you're interested, signing up is the same process as what you did today, okay, for today's workshop. Okay, so can you help me fill up this survey form you see on the screen? I'll give you 5 minutes, and then when we come back 5 minutes, I'll just go into the last portion about how we can work together for those of you who are still interested in continuing the discussion. Also, at the same time, if you want to get a copy of the video, the next portion will also tell you how you can get a copy of the video for today's session. Is that okay? All right. So hopefully you all can. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Gary, to Michelle. All right. So scan this QR code in. All right, and then fill up the survey. If you want the actual link itself, let me do this and do the link for you. Okay. So here is the actual link. Okay. So let me copy this link into the chat box. Okay. All right, the link for the form is in the chat box. So just spend 5 minutes helping me fill this up, and then I'll come back to you for the last portion itself. Okay, I see you guys in a while. For those of you who are interested, if those of you who have seen enough and you've been to my workshops and you know what's the last portion going to be, thank you so much for coming. All right, and I'll see you guys hopefully soon, if not sooner. And then yeah, take care. All right, the rest of you, I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. All right, see you then.
A few moments later.
Okay. All right. So let's deal with the last portion first. Okay. Again, if any of you got any questions later on, we can talk about it as well. Okay. So this portion is essentially trying to sort of give you an idea of how we can continue the conversation. Okay. Now, first things first. Those of you who want to get a copy or link to the video for today's session, what I need you to do is basically fill up a simple form which provides me with your email address. Then I'll send that to you. You can unsubscribe from the email address anytime you like. But basically what happens is that when I get your email address, not only do I send you today's video of the workshop, but I also through a once a month newsletter, I share with you latest updates, right? At the same time, if you are in my mail list, I will also send you the same video link for other workshops that I do as well. Okay, so that's to get that. I need you to fill up this particular form. So let me copy and paste this form here again. So let me just do this. Copy. Everyone in meeting. Okay. All right. So if you provide your email address here, the form is in there. Okay, then you can sort of I will be able to send, I'll have your email address to send you the link for the video itself. Quick question to Michelle, where can we sign up for your upcoming workshop? It's the same WSG link that you have previously been signing up for this particular workshop. Okay, so it's the same process. Okay, so so this is one part. All right, so this is to allow you to get the link to today's workshop as well as future workshops through my monthly newsletter. Okay, that's one. The second way for us to connect up obviously is through LinkedIn. So you can see my LinkedIn address is LIMYW. Okay, so very easy to connect up. But at the same time, you can also go into my Facebook group, okay, or Facebook page, where I actually also try and share certain opportunities as well as job search tips and techniques inside there. But no, most of the time I'm actually on LinkedIn itself, but you can also go to this particular Facebook page as well. So again, let me put this in to the page so that it's easier for you. Copy. Okay, so that link is in the page itself, in the chat box itself, so you can join that. Okay, so very simple. It's basically connecting up with me on LinkedIn and Facebook, right? Just so that I can share with you certain tips and opportunities that come along. All right. So next one is about this e-course. Now, many of my workshop participants have already signed up for this. Essentially, it's an e-learning course. It's about how you make an effective career switch. Okay, so basically, no obligation. I'm just sharing with you in case you are interested. Essentially, these are the chapters that I have here. All right, so essentially, it goes through the steps that some of which I described to you earlier, but it also contains a lot more things inside there. So again, if you are interested, you can sign up. There are some privileges here for those of you who are part of the workshop process. All right, so it's a discount and all that. So let me again put this into the chat box for you if you're really interested. Again, no obligation. I really leave it up to you. It's just another opportunity for us to work together if you want. Okay, so the link is in the chat box itself. It's a 30-day guarantee, as well as there's some free chapters for you to take a look if you're interested. Okay, so that's the e-learning course. Then those of you, much of what I've gone through with you essentially is a coaching process I go through with my clients. Now, what I do is that I don't really do individual ad hoc coaching. I do coaching based on a package. Okay, so I have basically 3 packages here. One is talking about the hidden job market. So it's about 4 hours one-on-one coaching. The other one is what we actually gone through today, but it's over 6 hours one-on-one coaching. All right, and it's go through in a lot more detail and it's customized for you. Then the last one is really, it's about how you would do things like, outreach strategies, your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, interview tips, and all that. So these are 3 packages I essentially do for my clients. Okay, so those of you who are participants of a workshop, you just let me know that you have been a past participant, and therefore I would give you the special rate for that as well. Okay, so the page for this is here. Let me just again copy this for you. Again, this is another layer of how we can work together if you are interested. Okay, again, this is something I only open up to my workshop participants as well. All right, so the link is in the chat box. Then I think the last one here is for those of you who are interested in becoming certified career coaches. I actually had a few people from past workshops who actually were interested, and a couple of them actually signed up for my course. Right? If you want to be trained as a career coach and get an internationally recognized career coaching certification course, I conduct those things as well. All right. So here, we are talking about a small class size, maximum 6 people over 24 hours. And right now I'm doing everything over Zoom. So, the schedule is easy to manage for everyone. Okay. And at the end of it, you actually are able to have 2 internationally recognized coaching credentials. All right. And this 2 you see up here, basically up here, right? The CCSP as well as the GCDF. For those of you who want to know more information about this, let me share the link with you as well in the chat box. So this is the last link, don't worry, that I'm going to share with you. And I'll put it into the chat box here. Okay, so this will give you more information about the coaching course if you're interested. All right, so hopefully that gives you enough information on how you can relate and how you can connect up with me, various levels, various degrees. Okay, so really at the end of the day, I hope today's session, it was 6 hours of interaction, and I really like that you guys also talked and helped each other. That's important. So I really hope that at the end of it you have some idea of moving forward, because by moving forward you really need to take courage to move to the next step in order to derive and achieve what you want to achieve. Okay, so that is the key thing here. So thank you so much for staying for the last 6 hours, right? I hope that you got something out of it. And I see some smiling faces like Wei Jie. Very nice to see your smile.
Yeah, because I used to do some training, so
Right.
it's nice to have some like visual feedback.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. So unless there's any other questions, if there's no other questions, then I'll just call it a day for today. Okay. If there's nothing else, everyone, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for coming in. YL Ong, you do you have anything you want to ask?
Oh no, I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, I'm very, very glad to help. Okay. If not, then everybody, I wish you all a good rest of the week. Okay. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Okay. Omicron is still here, so stay safe. Okay.
Thanks
so take
you
care.
and cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.